Thank you guys so much for being here at our CWCBE 2022 Expo. So excited to have you guys are in for a treat. You just heard from the mayor and all the inspiring communication he shared with us today. Now, our next in conversation with a one-on-one with Chairwoman Tremaine Wright. Chairwoman is our New York State Cannabis Control Board and former member of the New York State Assembly from the 56th District, which includes parts of Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn. Chair Wright is responsible for the regulatory. Oh, you can clap for Brooklyn. Okay. I know how Brooklyn is a ride or die community. I always get that. Let me pause. Chair Wright is responsible for the regulatory and tax policies regarding medical and adult use cannabis in New York State. Chairwoman Wright, of course, Chairwoman Wright is a former New York State Assembly and thereafter served as the first director of the DFS statewide Office of Financial Inclusion and Empowerment. She is an attorney, entrepreneur, small business owner, and activist who is a second-generation Bed-Stuy resident. You know, I got the Bed-Stuy finally right. Resident invested in preserving the rich legacy of her community and building a strong foundation for the future. She has dedicated her career to empowering and creating opportunities for her neighbors and her community. Please welcome Chairwoman Tremaine Wright. And certainly this woman needs no introduction. As a matter of fact, true story, I got started in this industry because of the organization she heads up, which is Woman Grow. Gia Morón oversees the company's day-to-day operations, internal and external communications, educational programming, and strategic partnerships. And I can tell you without a doubt, she is one of the industry leaders. And one of the ones I can tell you foremost is a mentor, an advocate, and a general all-around just great person. So welcome Gia Morón to the stage.
You are too kind. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Have fun.
Thank you. We're about to have fun.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? Did I hear Brooklyn in the house?
They're always in the house.
I have to say that because our chairwoman and I are both from Brooklyn,
That's
and so
right.
we will represent. So here we are.
Yes, thank you very much. It is wonderful to be here with you this afternoon.
It is awesome to be here with you because I remember sitting right in that row some months ago when someone was giving a keynote.
About what to expect.
What to expect in the industry.
And now we're ready to talk about what's happening in the industry.
That's exactly. Are we ready to talk about what's happening in the industry? Yes. So I want to start a little backwards, and I think for most will say, why are you starting there? But, you know, for many of us who fought for adult use legalization, we stress the importance of education. And being responsible, you know, putting aside concerns of communities. You know, for those of us who went to those community boards or those community events, or those who were concerned about getting cannabis in the hands of children. And so, you know, Chairwoman, your office created this whole education program. And I'm stunned because it's, I mean, billboards, commercials, social media. And so can we talk more about that rollout?
Yes, so the Office of Cannabis Management has been really engaged in educating our public, helping to change the narrative about what is cannabis, how should we relate to it, what should become the normal conversation and the normal language around this plant that we all need people to be educated about. So we started with Cannabis Conversations. We hosted 10 conversations online that went all over the state. I spoke for about 40 minutes. We answered questions that came in from community. Thereafter, staff went out and they hosted, I think they've done 4 webinars already to answer questions about how to get ready for the licensing period and what's involved in our licensing regulations. We've also launched a campaign that is, I'm going to refer to as our public education campaign, that includes billboards, commercials, social media ads. Some of you might have taken the A or the 2 train here in New York City. You've seen them wrapped in some of the ads. But we're really trying to focus on how to keep your product safe in your home, away from children and from your pets. How to make sure that young people know that this is for those who are 21 and older. And also how to actually use and be mindful of when you are smoking, if you choose to consume in that manner, how to keep that smoke away from others. We're really trying to make sure that we change the narrative so that people know that there are safety precautions in making a decision to participate, that this is really an adult product, and we want people to be engaged. And we're also developing, we're not developing, they're already online at cannabis.ny.gov. If you go on the page, we have fact sheets for parents and for those who work with young people so that they can have intelligent, relevant conversations about what cannabis is, why it's not for young people, what are the concerns around young people's usage, and also how do we maintain or how do we provide supports for those people who might feel like they're not using it but actually abusing it. So we also have support systems on access to support systems that way. And for the first time ever, I don't know how many of you were watching the Game 1 of the NBA Finals, but we aired our first commercial that went nationwide, and we're super proud of it.
We have to give big up to that.
So
that is
our
such a big deal.
office was fantastic. They got this campaign together, which addressed what was the core of the MRTA. It was about social equity. It identified all of the heavy-handed and uneven policing that occurred during prohibition of cannabis, so that it can help to build the language around why we have an equity-centered law here in New York State. And so I gave people the facts. It told them that if they wanted more information to go to our site, and thereafter they will be able to find more information, including a county-by-county arrest record from 1990 to 2000, so that they can see what it looks like for 10 years of arrest records and disproportionate impacts throughout our state. So we're really trying to build language around equity. We're also trying to build language around safety and safe usage.
And so, first of all, thank you for that, because for those of you who are not familiar, I mean, advertising and marketing in cannabis is already a challenge. Even when we think about social media, and we phrase those keywords of education and safety, and they're still blocking us. And the fact that you were able to get that commercial run is important, and thank you for doing that. But the other piece that I thought was interesting is that you're also running it in other languages. And for my Boricuas out there, hello, because I know you got to be here somewhere, right? Yo soy Boricua. But it's important that we do communicate this education in languages that people can absorb.
Yes.
And so you all launched a Spanish language.
Yes, so we do have Spanish language translations currently. We are working on additional translations. Here in New York State, I think there are about 20, I'm not even going to say New York State. I think just in Queens we have 24 languages spoken. Right. So throughout this state, the number increases. We are really trying to meet people where they are. We are a very young, a very new, and a very understaffed agency. Our goal is to have 200 employees. We're still under 100. So we are asking people to please be patient with us as we ramp up. But we have been successful in getting Spanish translations. Also, we hosted one of the cannabis conversations in Spanish language. It was actually led by our board member, Jessica Garcia. And we were really excited that we had people in the house, amongst our, our staff, that could actually lead the conversation, speak intelligently in another language, and actually converse. And that was really important for us. So we're building, we are mindful of it, and we're trying to overcome those obstacles.
Is there anything else that you plan on rolling out as part of this education program?
So yes, the education program is ongoing. It is, so we do not want to pre-release and tell everybody what's coming down the pipeline. We want you to wait and stay on alert and know exactly that we are working, that we will continue to reach people through all of the means and the media outlets that we have currently been using, we will continue to use. But we are going to have a more robust education program geared directly to young people. And we're trying to make sure that it is a relevant conversation. We are aware that there are lots of sales that have happened at corner stores, grocery stores, and small shops in our neighborhoods that are selling products that should not be sold to young people. So we are trying to address that. But we're also trying to make sure that parents and those people who deal directly with our youth have language that makes sense to young people. Because many of us grew up with our war on drugs that look like this is your brain on drugs, this is the egg, this is your brain on drugs. It's no longer relevant. That's not the way people think about it. And so we're trying to develop what is going to be that memorable image and language so that people can move forward with it. So we are steadily working, and it is more to come.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to pick. So, by the way, don't judge me. If you see me doing this, I'm just a woman of a certain age. I need my readers. Okay, so don't judge me. All right. So, but I want to pivot the conversation to what many of us in here are interested in. There have been some conditional cultivation licenses that have been given out.
Yeah.
And there's been, I would say, an imbalance of understanding. But if you can just confirm for us, how many conditional licenses have been given out thus far?
We have issued and approved 164 so far.
And I want to say that I know personally there are women cultivators that have been awarded. And I say that to say if you've walked around the floor, that Women Grow Pavilion in the back, last year, we had one of those cultivators that was part of our booth space, and she just recently received her license. So I know that you're working with people. Now, what is the cap for these licenses?
There is no cap. So we're very clear in New York State that we are not trying to work from a place of scarcity. This is about opportunity. And so I know a lot of people say, oh, but don't you want to be mindful of what the market can bear? Yes, we do. And we do believe that the market will help us to shift and shape it as necessary, and we will see the number of people requesting licenses decline as the market fills up. We know that those things will happen. The market will give us direction, but there's no limit. We are at this moment saying if you are prepared to enter the market and you are ready to launch your business, you are welcome to apply. And that, we hope, will also trickle down so that people know and understand that they do not have to be the first, the 10th, or the 100th applicant, and their opportunity still exists. We know and understand that a lot of folks are going to be creating new businesses. Some people will be able to pivot, like these new cultivators.
Right.
They're all existing hemp farmers that have been farming here in New York State. Those people were making a pivot. Lots of other people will be entering this market. They're starting fresh. They have to build it up. They do not have to be ready on day one. Opportunities still exist. And what I like to remind people of is we have been issuing liquor licenses in this state since the end of Prohibition. And we still issue licenses every month. So there's opportunity, there's room, and you do not have to be the first to get your license. You just need to be well prepared that when you get it, that you're hitting the ground with your business plan in hand and you have a successful business. That's really what this is about. We want people to be successful in this industry. This is not a race for you to deposit your application fee. Thank you very much, because that's right. We don't want you to think this is a race. And we also are trying to make sure that it's equitable. And so when we talk about equity, equity is not normally who gets there first. because that means someone might have had a couple of assists in order to get there to the
Right,
finish line
right,
first.
right.
This is really about making sure that the door remains open so that when you are ready and you're prepared, you can come and get the things that you need, and we're giving an assist by providing the license so that you can move forward with your business plan. That's the way we want to approach this. We're trying to figure out what makes sense across the board. We're trying to even address pricing. Everyone's wondering how much everything's going to cost. I
Listen,
know.
did you see my questions?
I did.
Did you? Because you're cheating now. And by the way, I can tell you're a basketball fan because I know the lingo. So before we get there, for those who are sitting in the audience who perhaps are hemp farmers and they're thinking, well, you know what, I do want to apply. I didn't realize that there wasn't a deadline. So where do they go to apply?
So the conditional licenses were created by legislation this year.
Right.
So that does have a window. It ends on an application window that ends on June 30th. So if you are an existing hemp farmer in New York State and you would like to grow cannabis for the adult use market, our applications are open. We will be accepting them through June 30th, and then thereafter the window will close. The reason for this is that this is a very small licensing window for a very discrete group of people, because you all have to have been hemp farmers in New York State.
Yep.
And we are very much aware that this conditional license is not the general license. So we also don't want to spend an endless amount of time doing conditional licenses. We really are focused on getting the adult use market up and running in New York State, and that would be the general open market for all participants to apply.
Again, the current conditional cultivation license deadline is June 30th. Do not
yes.
come back and say, well, the chairwoman said no. She said June 30. Okay. Now, so you've mentioned the conditional licenses, which means you're leading up to the social equity dispensaries that we've all been reading about.
Yes.
And where does that stand now? Because everyone's wondering, when are these applications going to open? When are they coming to market? Right here, right now, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so this is the hot topic of the day we are very much aware of. It's very often referred to as CARD, the Conditional Adult Use Dispensary Retail License. And so we are offering this to people who have been convicted, charged and convicted of cannabis related or marijuana related charges. To them and their immediate family members. They qualify.
Can we break down immediate family member?
So
Because that
it
doesn't
is-
include cousins, right?
No, cousins is
All
not
right,
included.
so rule your cousins
Siblings
out.
are not included
Okay.
either. So just to be clear, currently siblings are not included. It is mother, father, child, guardians. So it's really the, I forget the right phrase of that familiar line, but it is
Immediate
a direct
family?
that direct familiar
the
line, but it does not include siblings.
Does not include siblings. So don't go adopting siblings to apply.
Right.
Is what you say.
Right, and that's one of the pitfalls in why siblings were not included in the definition. There are lots of sisters of a sister of a sister, and we're not in the place to actually process all of that. It would have been a nightmare. So we had to just kind of confine and restrict that definition. So marriage, parental lineage, mother, father, child, they're all covered. So that person or the family member convicted of a cannabis charge, and they have to have had 2 years experience leading or running a profitable business.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. Do not answer that yet, because people have questions, Chairwoman. We want to understand that.
Yes. Okay.
So they're able to apply within that line order. What does that mean?
So it means currently we're looking at those regulations. They've
Right.
just been issued. They are out for comment. So please, if you are interested in one of these conditional dispensary licenses, go to our website, get a copy of the regulations that have been proposed and issued. They are open for comment. So we're in that 60-day window. After 60 days, we revise and respond to every comment. Thereafter, we re-release the regulations for 45 days for another round of comments. So that means that we're looking at minimum, a 4-month process. So count June, July, August, September before we get final regulations. And after the final regulations are issued, we're able to open up the application pool. So that means we're probably looking at mid-fall to begin accepting applications for this. And the reasoning is we know that we want to get these up and launched before the end of the year.
Right.
This is part of that conditional rollout. This is part of the first wave of adult use in New York State. It does take some time, but this is the route that we've been able to go down.
And so for those of you who wonder if you should comment, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Why is it important for people to comment on the regs?
Because we don't know everything. That's the short answer. But another part of the answer is you see the gaps because you are practitioners, because you are learned people in this industry, because you have operated some other business, because you have been thinking about it for 5 years, 6 months, or 2 days. We need to hear your voice. Because when you look at those regulations, you have an eye for what it looks like to do it from the perspective of a retail owner and operator. You know and understand, as somebody who's been investing in cannabis or someone who's visited 8 of the states that have dispensaries already, because you are that person, you have a different lens, and we need to hear from you because your input adds value to how we create these regulations, because what we don't want are regulations that need to be revised in 6 months. We want to have a comprehensive set of regulations that are going to give you an opportunity to open business and to operate successfully. So we don't want it to have unnecessary hurdles, unnecessary holes, and things that we have to come back and fix in a matter of months.
So basically, for those, I'm the chairwoman translator. For those that sit on the side and say, well, they should have done, well, what they should have done, here's your opportunity to add value and let your voice be heard. So when we talk about the 2 years of running a business, I've heard the talks, I've heard a lot of pushback from that. Why was that put in place?
So every licensee under the conditional retail dispensary for this round is also eligible for one of our social equity loans. So in tandem with rolling out conditional retail dispensary licenses, the state has authorized us to, with a $200 million loan fund, wherein we will be able
loan,
to...
right?
Loan fund.
Okay, loan.
And so I want to be clear, it is a loan fund, but it's $200 million that we're trying to raise in the market so that we will be able to actually provide dollars to the people opening businesses, because everyone in this room knows that it is a challenge for small businesses to go out and get a loan no matter what industry you're in. And then when we say it's a cannabis industry, it's even tougher. So we've paired the conditional dispensary with a loan fund. Therefore, we need people who have some experience running a business that can demonstrate that they are able to repay a loan. Now, I know people are saying, oh, use a credit score. We're not using a credit score. That is not part of the application process. That's not part of the loan process. Therefore, we need to be able to say, what else will demonstrate an ability to repay, to operate a business and to repay a loan? This was one of the measures that we've decided would be a good measure and it would make sense. And again, this is a conditional license for a very discrete group of people. And these are people just like our farmers who are operating businesses in our community that we're giving an opportunity to get involved in cannabis on the first day. We're saying we want you on the ground. We want to prioritize small businesses. We want to prioritize distressed farmers. And if you're a hemp farmer, you're probably a distressed farmer because the market has plummeted. So we've been clear that the MRTA has designated certain pockets of our population, which included distressed farmers, those who have been convicted and or charged of marijuana charges under prohibition, service-disabled veterans, as well as MWBEs. This is our first stab at making sure that we meet equity goals and using all the resources that are available and a very willing administration to support us to make sure that we move this forward. And we've decided a loan fund for those dispensary owners and getting our farmers into the market is the first step, and we think we're going in the right direction with it.
That's awesome. I mean, and I'm glad that I asked that question, because in my mind I'm thinking, so what types of businesses should these people have run? Maybe they were barbershop owners. Maybe they were jewelry makers. Maybe they were car service.
They could have been the people that clean houses. They could have been the people that have
Cleaning
storefronts.
services. Okay.
Yep. They could be the people that are exterminators. They can have run any kind of business.
But you just need to show 2 years of business.
Yes.
You didn't say successful business. You just said
Profitable.
Profitable, but like,
and
because that varies.
And profit varies as well as if you have a conversation with your accountant, you understand that the profit doesn't always mean that you are showing $1,000 million.
Right.
Sometimes it's like, I've been able to use the money better, wisely, covering other costs, expenses. We need to see profitable businesses. Profit, by definition, is probably $1. That's all arguable. We will figure that out later on, but we have to make sure that we are figuring out a method and a means that will not automatically disqualify people or rely on systems that we already know are laden with bias.
Right.
So the credit system is laden with bias. We know that. So we don't want to rely on that. We're trying to find other means and measures, and this was one of those opportunities, so we're taking advantage of it.
So we've got 4 months,
Yes.
technically, especially after everyone in here comments. Then it's the application. Have you
Yes.
all thought about or have created sort of a criteria of what people will need to apply? We already know the 2 years, but beyond that.
So beyond that,
Do you need to see taxes? And I'll tell you why. I get on phone calls. People are like, formally with the record, I'm not going to give up my taxes because now the federal government's coming after me. But we also know that you need to file taxes, correct?
yes. So if you have a history of being non-compliant with whatever, driving record, so background checks are part of the process. Let's be clear.
Background check?
We've seen that in the cultivator space. It is in our proposed regulations for the dispensary licenses. It's something that happens when I got my law license. It happens if you have a real estate license. I think the only license that we give out that it doesn't apply to might be your driver's license. There are certain standards that we know exist within the state. And character is a part of the, so while we exclude and do not hold it against anyone if they have a marijuana conviction, we do look and see if you have some character flaws such as embezzling or fraud, and those things definitely play into whether or not you get a license, because this is about compliance, and compliance is just about a relationship of trust and an understanding that we're going to agree. Right.
Does weapon charges?
So that is something that we don't have a firm statement upon, because it may have been something that was associated with a cannabis conviction, and so those are a little bit more gray. That's why I used fraud and embezzlement as an example, because those crimes are white-collar crimes that are commonly associated with character.
Correct.
Versus anything else. And those are considered in licensing in New York State. And similarly, it would be considered in the licensing for cannabis, because it's one of our standards. But any other convictions are a little bit more gray, and those tell a narrative. It's just like folks get their legal license even if they've committed murder, once we consider the facts. But you probably are not getting your law license or legal license if you've embezzled funds. So that's why I use those as an example, because those are things that we kind of have history and relationship and a practice of evaluating in the state when we think about licensing.
Okay.
So anything else, what I'm going to encourage people to be prepared to do is to tell us your story, because part of your application is about who you are and what may have happened and how this might be a pivot moment for you, or maybe you had a pivot moment at some time after that charge that you're concerned about, that you want to say, you know what, this happened, those were the conditions under which it happened, and I have pivoted in this way, and I have been living my life in a certain manner since then. For people who are concerned about their lack of tax returns, filing taxes is a business responsibility. So saying that I have never filed taxes means that you've never had a job in New York State. And if you say otherwise, that means that you're telling the world, the feds and the state, that I have been operating out of compliance. So you need to figure out what is your narrative and your story related to that set of circumstances. My narrative might be, I'm going to go get me a job and start paying some taxes.
Hello. Hello.
But people have to figure out what makes sense for them. Mm-hmm. Me saying that might sound like pure garbage to some people because they're like, that ain't how it works. I need you to be able to explain how does it work with your set of circumstances and what does it mean and why you should be entrusted with one of the licenses that is quite coveted and that we know is going to be part of an industry that is going to be robust and bountiful and innovative here in New York.
Right. So why don't we talk about the serial unlicensed entrepreneurs that we find in certain storefronts, on the street? So, what are we doing about that?
We know that there are lots of our stores selling product that they should not have been selling. If I walk into your store and I see it, I usually tell you, you need to get rid of it. I don't tell you who I am. I don't make a stink. I'm just like, I don't think you have a license for that. I think you need to get rid of it. So we have sent out cease and desist letters. We have made contact with a number, I want to say we're just shy of 100 businesses throughout this state that we know have been selling, gifting, exchanging, bartering, however you want to call it, it's an illegal sale. And I don't care how you want to call it an exchange, it is an illegal sale and transaction. The OCM is not the legal arm that's going to be coming after people first. It is tax and finance. So our partner,
which is
and
not your department.
That
at
is
all.
not our department. But all of these businesses, you guys are the legal businesses. You're just selling illegal product. Tax and finance will be the next step, and they will be coming to your door, and they will be issuing fines, and they will be levying taxes against you because you're selling product without returning the taxes on it. It's really simple. So we went this route because what we don't want to do is see a rash of criminalization once again hitting our businesses, our communities, and our people. We did not want this to be law enforcement action first. We want to have a conversation with our businesses, with our consumers, so that they know what the law is, what they should expect, and how they should be participating in this cannabis business. Thereafter, we've sent letters. We're sending we sent a second set of cease and desist. I know, just like everybody else in here, we can walk 2 blocks and run into one of these trucks selling stuff that they shouldn't be selling. They are on the list. They've gotten it. Tax and Finance has a copy of the list. They'll be coming to see them soon, too. But I also want to remind people that this is our window for education. This window is not forever. At some point, we, as a state, as a government, will have to pivot and say, hey, now we do have to use enforcement measures to stop activity that is known and illegal. It's illicit. But I also want to say, at this moment in time, we really want to stand up our adult use market, and enforcement against bad actors cannot be the priority conversation. It really has to be about how do we stand up the businesses that want to operate in the regulated space, that want to pay taxes, that want to be a part of the standard cannabis industry in New York State. Cannabis exists in New York already. We're the largest market in the world.
Yep.
The largest market in the world. That is not going to end overnight. Now, clap again, because we are the largest market.
Yeah.
We're just about to regulate that market. We're about to tax and regulate that market. So I want to say that again, tax and regulate. But what it also means is that there is a very sophisticated business system that exists in this state that will not be undone within months, that will not fall apart just because we passed the law. It is going to take time, education, and work. We're working with many of our legacy operators already to help understand what the challenges are for them to enter the regulated market and figure out ways in which we can invite them in and help them transition over, because we know and understand that this market exists.
Right.
And we want to make sure that Legacy knows and understands that you have a place in this regulated industry. Thank you, because that's what I need you all to be a part of the regulated industry. And I think that that's sometimes lost in the translation when we talk about enforcement. We know and understand the problems.
We don't want to go back to what we already experienced.
Exactly.
And so now we've got these conditional cultivation, we've got the conditional dispensary, but now most of the people in this room are probably wondering, when are we getting adult use licenses?
So just this week, we just passed or approved the first adult use regulations in the state. They were focused on packaging and advertising, as well as lab packaging, manufacturing, and labeling, and then also on our labs. Mm-hmm. This is, right, thank you. It's the first 3 sections of the adult use regulations that have come forward, and they are now open for comment. So we hope that you will go to our site, take a look at them, because this is the first movement. But like we've already said, they go for 60-day comments. We get it back, we make additional comments, we release them once again. So we're looking at least a 4 to 6 month window to get all of our regulations up and approved. And so we would say we remain hopeful that we can get this done by the end of the year.
So you have a responsibility to go and look for these regulations, because what our chairwoman is saying is this is not, what she just spoke about is not the conditional licenses. We're talking about that adult use license that we've all been waiting for, that adult use market that we're all looking forward to.
Yes.
And so you're saying, make the comments.
Yes.
Take a look at the labeling. Get the feedback. I follow them on social media. I don't know if you are, but I follow them on social media. I make hot copy. I comment. But okay, so we only got a few minutes because I'm getting a side eye.
Okay.
we have to talk about. Hold on one second. We have to talk about medical.
Yes.
And we have to talk about medical quickly, because now all ailments, all doctors. We still have a medical program in New York State,
we
correct?
Do. Yes, we do.
Before we have to wrap up, what can you tell us about the medical market that perhaps our audience isn't aware of?
That we have gotten rid of the registration fee for all patients. You can go to any doctor and they can certify you. So please, if you want to participate in this medical program, go to any practitioner. And we have expanded the practitioner base. It is not just your MD. It can be your nurse practitioner and a number of other practitioners. But if they are able to prescribe meds, they are able to certify you for marijuana, cannabis in this state.
Do you see why I said let's talk about medical?
And we have waived the $50 registration fee for patients, so there's no longer a fee to register as a patient. We just need you to go on. If you hit any trouble, we need you to email us and say, hey, do mine by paper, because I can't wait while you figure this out. We are trying to get people involved, and we want people to really realize that there is a wellness aspect to this business, that there's a wellness for the plant, that this is part of people's, it really does enhance their well-being. And we are seeing it really a lot in the CBD market.
Yes.
A number of our existing CBD businesses have really wrapped around the wellness and health market, and they're talking about yoga and well-being and rest and sleep, and you will not be healthy if you cannot sleep well. So these are the things that we're really seeing really improved conversation about, and we're really supportive and excited about it. We see a number of new studies that are being rolled out. I'm going to say, I think it was 3 weeks ago, I was just reading about one at Memorial Sloan Kettering.
Yep.
I just read one about the orthopedic surgeons. They were doing a pain management. Yes, 2 nights ago, I ended up at a table with some folks from Sloan, I think they were at Sloan Kettering, no, Mount Sinai, and we were just having an intelligent conversation about how we might be able to expand the use of cannabis in healthcare, and specifically with geriatrics and with pain management. So we're really focused on it. It is not lost. This is work that we want to see, we want to prove, and we want to hold it up.
Because as we are, I don't know if we have it, because I'm getting the side-eye, we have to wrap up, I'm so
Okay.
sorry. But it's important for you guys to know she's giving me the side-eye. I see, and she's from Jersey, so, you know. But I wanted to stress.
Let us catch up.
I wanted to wrap this up by saying it's important that you visit the Office of Cannabis website, because all of this information is really there. It may take some time because you got to go through every page, but the regs are there. The license information is there. The medical information on where to tell your doctor to go get certified so they can certify you as a patient. Everything is on this site. What else should they know before we say goodbye?
If you can get updates and alerts. By going to the site, you can sign up for updates and alerts, and you get a notification on every action that we're taking as an agency. We need you to stay close. We're really excited, and I cannot wait until we are doing adult use licensing, because I really can't wait to engage and see what all of the wonderful businesses are going to be in our state.
It's also in Spanish too.
Yes.
What's the website?
It is cannabis.ny.gov.
Cannabis.ny.gov. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairwoman.